Okay, imagine a place where living to 100 isn't some shocking headline, it's becoming normal. A place where the data isn't just an estimate, it's an actual headcount. This isn't science fiction, you guys. It's modern Japan. So today, we're going to dig into the system behind one of the most incredible public health stories in the world, Japan's longevity secret.
I mean, it's the question we all think about, right? But what if the answer isn't some single magic secret? What if it's a combination of clues? Clues that are hidden in their food, in their DNA, and yeah, even in their friendships. That's the investigation we're starting right now.
So just how real is this whole phenomenon? Well, get this. In late 2023, this was the exact number of people in Japan aged 100 or older. And the key word there is exact. See, since the 1870s, Japan has kept this super detailed family registry. So this number, it's not an educated guess. It is a precise count.
Now let's put that number into perspective, because that's where it gets really wild. Take a look at this. For every 100,000 people, Japan has over 80 centenarians. Now look over at France and then at the US. We're not talking about a small gap here. This is a massive, massive longevity lead. So the real question is, why?
So what is going on inside their bodies that makes them so different? Well, our first big clue points to one single biological suspect, inflammation. So let's dive in.
Okay, this is a really crucial point. Japanese centenarians aren't immortal. They're still human, of course. But what study after study finds is that many of them don't get diagnosed with their first major age-related illness, things like heart disease or dementia, until they're well into their 90s. There's a name for this. It's called the compression of morbidity. And think about that for a second. It's about squeezing any period of bad health into the very, very end of a very long and very healthy life.
To really get why, we need to talk about these guys, senescent cells, or as scientists have brilliantly nicknamed them, zombie cells. As we age, some of our cells get old, and they're supposed to just die off, but they don't. Instead, they just hang around like little zombies, pumping out all these inflammatory signals that damage the perfectly healthy cells around them. So what's the big takeaway here? It's actually beautifully simple. If you can keep that constant low-grade inflammation down, you slow down the damage from these zombie cells. You are, quite literally, slowing down the aging process at the cellular level. This right here, this is the central clue in our entire investigation.
So how do they fight off these zombie cells and keep that inflammation so low? Well, the first big piece of evidence is sitting right there on their plate. Let's take a look at the secrets hiding in their diet.
The traditional Japanese plate is basically an anti-inflammatory powerhouse. We're talking nutrient-packed seaweed, gut-healthy fermented foods like miso, green tea that's loaded with antioxidants, and just a huge, colorful variety of fresh vegetables with pretty much every meal. Now, let's zoom in on Okinawa for a second, one of those famous blue zones inside Japan. What's really fascinating is that their traditional carb staple wasn't white rice. For a very long time, up to 60% of their daily calories came from this, the purple sweet potato. And this one food choice is just a perfect example of how this all works. Let's break it down. First, they've got resistant starch, which is basically superfood for your good gut bacteria, and that directly lowers inflammation. Second, they deliver a massive dose of antioxidants to protect your actual DNA from damage. And third, all that fiber helps stabilize blood sugar, which is absolutely critical for long-term metabolic health.
But it goes beyond what they eat. It's also about how they eat. Hara Hachibu. It's this cultural mantra, a little reminder to stop eating when you're about 80% full. This isn't some stressful diet. It's a lifelong habit of just moderation. It prevents the body from constantly being in a state of excess, which, you guessed it, can be inflammatory all by itself.
Okay, but diet is just one part of the puzzle. Our investigation is now looking beyond food to two other incredibly powerful factors, genes and community.
So let's meet the APO4 gene. You can kind of think of this as a high-risk gene. If you have this variant, you have a much higher genetic predisposition for high cholesterol, chronic inflammation, and two of the biggest killers of old age, heart disease and Alzheimer's.
And here is the crucial genetic clue. It turns out that Japanese centenarians are significantly less likely to carry this high-risk APOE4 gene. It's like having a built-in genetic advantage, protecting them from clogged arteries and cognitive decline right from the day they're born. All right, now for something completely different. Let's pivot from our genes to our social lives. This quote comes from a massive study of over 300,000 people, and the finding is just shocking. The health risk of being chronically lonely is comparable to being a heavy smoker.
So how can a feeling be so physically damaging? Well, it's because your brain interprets long-term isolation as a threat. That triggers a chronic stress response, and chronic stress is one of the most reliable ways to create, chronic low-grade inflammation. Those strong community bonds you see in places like Okinawa, they are a powerful, powerful antidote.
We've looked at the clues in their diet, their genes, and their social lives. Now it's time to put it all together and reveal the complete longevity system.
If you remember one thing from this, let it be this. There is no magic pill. There's no single food. Japan's success is the result of an entire cultural system that, a lot of times, unintentionally, just supports all the pillars of healthy aging. The environment itself makes the healthy choice the easy choice.
So let's recap the pillars that make up this system. Pillar 1, a diet that is fundamentally designed to fight inflammation. Pillar 2, a cultural habit of lifelong caloric moderation. Pillar 3, a protective genetic profile that helps shield them from major age-related diseases. And Pillar 4, powerful social bonds that act as a buffer against chronic stress. It's the synergy, the way all these things work together, that creates such an incredible result.
At the end of the day, the goal isn't just about adding more years to your life, right? It's about adding more life to your years. And what this investigation really shows us is that it's not about finding one magic bullet. It's about building your own personal system. You don't have to move to Japan to learn from this. So look at these pillars again. Which one is your starting point? Which pillar will you choose to strengthen first?